Dr. Eris Thorne didn't just walk into the trauma unit. He patrolled it, like a king in a kingdom of sick people. To the hospital board, he was a genius, a revenue generator, the man who could stitch a heart valve with his eyes closed. But to the nurses, he was a predator. And today, he was hunting. "Nurse Vance." His voice cracked through the ER noise like a whip. Elena Vance didn't flinch. She didn't jump. She just stopped. She was organizing a crash cart with the precision of someone defusing a bomb. Slow, methodical. "I'm speaking to you, nurse," Thorne snapped, stepping into her personal space. Elena finally looked up. Her eyes weren't scared. They were empty. The kind of empty you only see in soldiers who have been awake for 3 days straight, waiting for an ambush. "I heard you, doctor," she said. Her voice was quiet, too quiet for a noisy ER. "The patient in Bay 4 is stabilizing. He doesn't need surgery, he needs rest." Thorne laughed, a sharp, ugly sound. "You think you know better than me? Because you read a chart?" Elena looked at his hands, then at his eyes. "No," she said, "because I've seen that wound before, in Kandahar. It's not a surgical case. It's a trap." Thorne's face went red. "Get out," he hissed. "You're fired. Get your things, and get out of my hospital." Elena didn't argue. She didn't beg. She just nodded, picked up her bag, and walked out. She knew something Thorne didn't. She knew the men who made that wound were coming back to finish the job. And now, there was no one left to stop them. The automatic doors slid shut behind her. Elena stood in the parking lot. The air was cold. Inside, the ER was chaos, phones ringing, monitors beeping, Dr. Thorne barking orders at a terrified resident. They had no idea. They were arguing about bed space, while a war was pulling into the driveway. 2 black SUVs, no plates, tinted windows. They moved like sharks in shallow water, silent, heavy. Elena watched from the shadows of the parking garage. She checked her watch. 3 minutes, she whispered. That's how long it takes for a cardiac arrest to turn into brain damage. And that's exactly how long it would take these men to clear the lobby. The doors of the lead SUV opened. 4 men stepped out. They weren't wearing masks. They weren't running. They walked with the casual confidence of men who owned the police. Suits, earpieces, and bulges under their jackets that were definitely not stethoscopes. Inside the ER, Dr. Thorne was still shouting, "I want that bed cleared. Get security if you have to." He got his wish. The doors slid open. The 4 men walked in. The noise in the ER died instantly. It wasn't because they shouted. It was because they didn't have to. The lead man, a giant with a scar running through his left eyebrow, walked straight to the front desk. He didn't look at the nurses. He looked at the security camera and smiled. "We're looking for a patient," he said. His voice was smooth, like oil on pavement. "Admitted 20 minutes ago. Gunshot wound." The triage nurse stammered. Sir, you can't be back here. Only family is—" The man didn't hit her. He just placed a hand on the counter. "We are family," he said. "The kind that buries you." Elena, watching on the security feed from her phone outside, closed her eyes. "Thorne," she muttered, "you idiot." She reached into her bag. She didn't pull out a phone to call 911. She pulled out a tourniquet, and a pair of trauma shears. She wasn't leaving. Inside the ER, the atmosphere had shifted. It wasn't a hospital anymore. It was a kill box. Dr. Thorne was still trying to exert authority. "I am the chief of surgery," he spat at the scarred man, "and you are trespassing." The scarred man didn't even blink. He just tapped his earpiece. "Clean the floor," he said calmly. "Start with the witnesses." Thorne froze. The other 3 men in suits moved. One locked the main entrance. Another pulled the blinds. The third pulled a suppressor from his jacket and began screwing it onto his pistol. Thorne's face went pale. "Wait," he stammered. "What are you doing?" "Tie them up," the scarred man said. "Zip ties. Everyone." Nurses were shoved to the ground. Patients were zip-tied to their gurneys. Thorne was thrown against the reception desk. "Where is the patient?" the scarred man asked, leaning close to Thorne's face. "The one with the gunshot wound." Thorne was trembling. Trauma 1, down the hall." The scarred man smiled. "Good doctor." He signaled his men. "Go. Finish it." 2 men moved down the hallway toward Trauma 1, but they didn't know about the supply closet. As they passed the janitorial door, a hand reached out. It wasn't fast. It was precise. The first man was yanked into the darkness before he could even scream. There was a dull thud, then silence. The second man turned around. "Marco?" Nothing. Just the sound of a mop bucket rolling across the floor. The second man raised his weapon. He moved toward the closet. "Come out," he hissed. He kicked the door open. Empty. He stepped inside. From the ceiling tiles above, Elena dropped. She didn't land like a superhero. She landed like a sack of bricks, driving her knee into his neck. The man crumbled. Elena stood up. She wasn't out of breath. She looked at the man on the floor. He was unconscious. She checked his pulse. Strong. "Lucky you," she whispered. She took his earpiece. She took his zip ties. She put the earpiece in her ear. "Status?" The scarred man's voice crackled on the line. "Marco? Polo?" Elena pressed the talk button. "They're sleeping," she said. Her voice was ice cold. Silence on the line. Then, the scarred man's voice, lower this time. "Who is this?" "I'm the one you fired," Elena said. "I didn't fire anyone," the man said, confused. "Not you," Elena replied. "Thorne." She looked at the security camera in the hallway and waved. "You brought a gun to a hospital," she said. "Bad idea. There are MRI machines, oxygen tanks, high-voltage cables." She paused. "You're not in a hospital anymore. You're in a hardware store." 10 minutes later, it was over. The scarred man was zip-tied to a gurney in the hallway. He had a broken nose and a dislocated shoulder. His men were unconscious in the supply closet. Dr. Thorne was still cowering behind the reception desk. The automatic doors slid open again, but this time it wasn't mercenaries. It was the military. Soldiers in full tactical gear swarmed the lobby, and walking behind them was a general, 4 stars on his shoulder. Thorne stood up, straightening his lab coat. He tried to compose himself. "Thank God you're here," Thorne said, stepping forward. "These maniacs. I tried to stop them, but..." The general walked right past him. He didn't even look at Thorne. He walked straight to the woman leaning against the wall. Elena. She was cleaning blood off her hands with a wet wipe. She looked tired. The general stopped in front of her. The entire ER went silent. Thorne watched, confused. She's She's just a nurse. I fired her. She's unstable. The general turned slowly. He looked at Thorne like he was a stain on the floor. Unstable? The general asked. He turned back to Elena, and then he saluted. It wasn't a casual salute. It was the salute you give to a superior officer. Major Vance, the general said. We got the signal. The asset is safe. Elena nodded. She didn't salute back. She just tossed the wet wipe into the trash. Took you long enough, she said. She grabbed her bag and walked toward the door. As she passed Thorne, she stopped. He was pale. His mouth was hanging open. You were right about one thing, Doctor, she said. Thorne blinked. What? I am paranoid, she whispered. That's why I'm still alive. She walked out into the night. The general turned to Thorne. You fired her? He asked. Thorne nodded weakly. The general laughed. A dry, humorless laugh. Son, the general said, you just fired the only reason this building is still standing.